The construction site on Platform 7 looked like any other in the galaxy. Metal beams stretched toward the artificial sky. Workers moved between scaffolding. The morning shift had just begun. Nobody noticed the human walking among them. Deho wore a standard worker's uniform. His face was calm. His hands were steady. He had been on the platform for 3 days learning the patterns. Where people walked. When supervisors checked equipment. Which safety systems were old and which were new. His target was a Vel-Nash diplomat named Kreshitar. The diplomat had an office on the top floor of the tower being built. Kreshtar had 16 bodyguards. The building had 40 security cameras. According to the Assassins Guild, killing him would take 6 months of planning. Deho had taken the contract 4 days ago. He reached the control panel for the cargo lift. His fingers moved quickly across the buttons. A safety override here. A weight limit adjustment there. To anyone watching, he was just a technician doing maintenance. In reality, he was building a trap. 3 hours later, Kreshitar left his office. The diplomat's forearms gestured as he spoke to his assistant. His serpentine body moved with the grace that made Vel-Nash famous. He stepped onto the cargo lift with 5 bodyguards. The lift began to rise. At the 42nd floor, the cable snapped. The lift fell. The emergency brakes failed. 6 bodies hit the ground. The investigation would later call it a tragic accident. Old equipment, poor maintenance. No one would ever connect it to the human worker who had left the platform an hour earlier. Deho was already on a ship heading to the next system when the news broke. Contract complete. Time elapsed, 4 hours. Payment received. He allowed himself a small smile. Back on Earth, this would have been considered a difficult job. In the galaxy, they called it impossible. The Galactic Assassins Guild received the report 2 days later. The guild master, an elegant Takari named Crystal Voice, read it 3 times. Her crystalline fingers trembled slightly. This was the 34th impossible contract completed by a human in the past year. The 34th time their careful rules had been broken. The 34th time someone had proven that human killers didn't care about art or tradition. They only cared about results. Crystal Voice called an emergency meeting. Guildmasters from 12 species gathered in the ancient hall. The room had seen 3,000 years of careful assassination tradition. Now that tradition was dying. Killed by humans who didn't understand what they were destroying. A Vel-Nash master spoke first. His voice carried centuries of pride. They are barbarians. They use construction equipment as weapons. They kill in hours what should take months. They have no respect for the craft. A Takari master agreed. We spend years learning to create the perfect poison. They push someone off a building. We plan elaborate scenarios. They improvise with whatever they find. They are destroying everything we built. The guild voted. They would go to the Galactic Council. They would demand that humans be restricted. The ancient art of assassination could not survive if Earth's brutal efficiency was allowed to continue. The council chamber was vast. Representatives from 47 species sat in a circle. At the center stood Ambassador Siak, Earth's diplomatic representative. He was a thin man with gray hair and tired eyes. He had been expecting this meeting for months. The guild's complaint was formal. Humans violate every standard of proper assassination. They ignore waiting periods. They refuse aesthetic requirements. They complete contracts too quickly. They must be regulated. A council member asked the obvious question, but do they succeed? Ambassador Siak brought up the data on the main screen. The numbers were stark. Human assassins had a 98.7% success rate. The galactic average was 34%. Average human contract time was 72 hours. Vel-Nash average was 8 months. In 3 years, humans had gone from unknown to dominant in the assassination market. A xenobiologist named Talrek was called to explain. He was nervous. His research had revealed something that made the entire council uncomfortable. Earth is classified as a Class 12 death world, he began. His voice shook slightly. Most intelligent species evolve on Class 2 or 3 worlds, stable climates, limited predators, abundant resources. Earth is different. He brought up images of Earth. Jungles where everything was poisonous, oceans filled with creatures that could swallow a ship, deserts that killed in hours, mountains where the air itself was deadly, weather that could destroy cities, diseases that wiped out millions. Humans evolved by surviving this, Talrek continued. They are endurance predators. They can track prey for days without stopping. They can function with minimal food and water. Their pattern recognition allows them to predict behavior from tiny clues. Most importantly, they can control their fear response. Where other species panic, humans think. The council chamber was silent. A representative from a peaceful garden world finally spoke. "You are saying they are built to kill?" Talrek nodded. "They are built to survive by any means necessary. In a galaxy where most species have forgotten what true predation means, humans are walking reminders." The debate lasted 3 days. Some council members wanted to ban humans from assassination entirely. Others argued that would be impossible to enforce. Finally, a compromise was reached. The Human Limitation Act would require all human assassins to follow guild regulations, extended waiting periods, aesthetic requirements, council oversight. Earth would have to agree or face economic sanctions. Ambassador Seok had no choice. He signed the treaty. Earth's government issued the orders. All registered human assassins were to comply immediately. Anyone who refused would lose their citizenship and Earth's protection. On Luna Station, 4 people met in a private room. The meeting was not recorded. No one knew they were there. Deho sat quietly, his hands folded. Hieri stood by the window, her modified eyes reflecting the earth below. Taman leaned against the wall, arms crossed. Ji-young paced like a caged animal. "They want us to be slow," Ji-young said. Her voice was angry. "They want us to play their games while people who need killing stay alive." Hieri spoke without turning from the window. "It is not about speed. It is about control. They fear what we represent." Taman's voice was calm. "The question is simple. Do we accept their limitations?" Deho finally spoke. His words were quiet but clear. "We scatter. We go independent. Earth cannot control what it does not officially know about. We operate alone. We take contracts they call impossible. We show them what humans really are." The others nodded. They had all reached the same conclusion. The guild wanted to cage them. The council wanted to regulate them. Earth wanted to use them. But out in the darkness between stars there was freedom. They made a pact that night. They would erase their records, build new identities, spread across the galaxy. They would become ghosts that the guild could not track and the council could not control. They would prove that you cannot regulate evolution. You cannot make laws against survival instincts that took millions of years to create. Before they left, Hieri asked one question. "What happens when they come after us?" Ji-young smiled. It was not a pleasant smile. "Then we remind them why Earth is a death world." 1 week later, all 4 had vanished from official records. Their citizenship files were corrupted. Their DNA profiles were deleted. Their last known locations led to dead ends. The galaxy's most dangerous assassins had scattered like seeds on the wind. The guild celebrated. The human problem was solved. The council relaxed. Earth's government pretended to be upset but secretly approved. After all, having unofficial assets was sometimes more useful than having official ones. None of them understood what they had done. They had not caged the predators. They had set them free. And predators that are free do not follow rules. They hunt. 6 months had passed since the 4 had scattered. In the Outer Rim, on a station where pirates ruled and law was a joke, people whispered about the pale ghost. They said he appeared from nowhere. They said he killed the unkillable. They said he was a spirit that punished the wicked. Daiho listened to these whispers with quiet satisfaction. He sat in a dark corner of a bar watching the crowd. His new identity was perfect. His face had been altered slightly. His records showed him as a traitor from the frontier colonies. Nobody would connect him to Earth's assassin program. His latest target sat 3 tables away. A pirate lord named Vex who controlled 6 systems and terrorized 20 more. The guild had refused his contract, calling it suicide. Vex had 200 personal guards. His fortress was built into an asteroid. Every approach was mined. Every entrance was watched. Deho had studied Vex for 48 hours. That was all he needed. He had learned that Vex visited this bar every week. He had learned that Vex always drank the same poison-tested wine. He had learned that Vex had one weakness that all his guards could not protect against. Vex stood to leave. His guards formed a protective circle. They moved toward the door. Deho did not move. He simply waited. Outside, a cargo transport was making a delivery. Its path took it directly above the bar's entrance. The pilot had been paid well to have a small malfunction at exactly the right moment. The cargo container fell. 5 tons of metal hit the entrance. Vex and 12 guards were crushed instantly. Daiho finished his drink and left through the back exit. Another accident. Another impossible kill completed in hours instead of months. Contract number 23 since the scatter. Across the galaxy in the corporate sectors, Hieri attended another board meeting. She looked like a perfect secretary. Her appearance had been surgically altered to match a local species. Her credentials were flawless. She had spent 2 months working her way into position. Today was harvest day. The CEO, a Drendari named Paulsec, droned on about quarterly profits. He had no idea that his secretary had discovered his secret contracts to sabotage human business interests, contracts to drive Earth's economy into collapse, contracts paid for by someone high in the council itself. Hieri made notes on her tablet. She smiled professionally. She had already copied every file in the company's database. She knew which council members were involved. She knew how deep the conspiracy went. But first, she had a more immediate job. She brought Paulsec his coffee. He drank it without a second thought. He had been drinking her coffee for 2 months. Why would today be different? The poison was Earth-made, designed to mimic a heart attack in Drendari biology. Paulsec would be dead in 6 hours. The autopsy would show natural causes. Hieri left work early that day, citing illness. By the time Paulsec collapsed, she was already on a ship to the next system. Another CEO was on her list. Another piece of the conspiracy to document. She was not just an assassin anymore. She was a hunter gathering evidence of something much larger than individual contracts. In the core worlds, the heart of galactic civilization, Taman walked through gardens that had existed for 1,000 years. He looked like a retired diplomat. His gray hair and calm manner made him invisible among the elite. Nobody suspected that the old man feeding birds had killed 3 people in the past month. His latest target lived in a tower that overlooked the gardens. A council member's chief of staff named Rendal. The chief had been instrumental in passing the Human Limitation Act. More importantly, he had access to classified information about council military movements. Information that someone was selling to enemies of peace. Taman had positioned himself carefully. His apartment was exactly 4.3 kilometers from Rendal's tower. The angle was perfect. The wind patterns were predictable. The glass in Rendal's office was standard, not reinforced. Everything was in place. At precisely 3 in the afternoon, when Rendal always sat at his desk to review reports, Taman took the shot. The bullet traveled silently across the distance. It entered through the window and found its target. Rendal died instantly. The investigation would find nothing. No weapon, no shooter, just a mysterious death in a secure building. Taman packed his rifle. He had already booked a flight off-world. His next target was a guildmaster who had been particularly vocal about eliminating all human assassins. The old man smiled. They wanted to make him slow down, follow their rules. Instead, he was teaching them that age only made a human hunter more patient. The war zones were different from the rest of the galaxy. Here, death was common. Battles raged between factions that had been fighting for decades. In this chaos, Ji-young felt at home. She walked through a battlefield like a ghost. Explosions erupted around her. Soldiers fired in all directions. She moved between the chaos, heading toward her target, a general who had ordered the destruction of a civilian station, a general who thought himself untouchable in the middle of his own army. Ji-young had taken 31 contracts in 6 months. She did not hide. She did not pretend. She simply moved faster than her enemies could react. Her combat modifications made her stronger than most species. Her earthborn reflexes made her deadlier than any soldier. She reached the general's command post. 10 guards stood between her and the entrance. They saw her coming. They opened fire. She moved like water, flowing around their shots. Her own weapons spoke. 10 guards fell. She stepped over their bodies and entered the command post. The general reached for his sidearm. Ji-young was faster. Her blade found his throat. He collapsed. She activated the building's emergency broadcast system. Every soldier on the battlefield heard her voice. "Your general is dead. He ordered the deaths of innocents. I delivered justice. Remember this." She walked out of the command post. Soldiers stared but did not fire. Something in her eyes told them that she was not their enemy. She was something beyond their understanding, a force of nature, a predator from a world they could not imagine. The four assassins maintained encrypted contact. Every week they exchanged brief messages. Deho reported successful contracts in the Outer Rim. Hieri shared intelligence about the conspiracy against Earth. Taemin confirmed eliminations in the core worlds. Ji-young sent body counts from the war zones. They were not just working alone. Other human assassins had heard about their success. One by one, operators left Earth's official programs. They followed the example set by the original four. They scattered across the galaxy, taking impossible contracts and building fearsome reputations. The guild began to notice. Contracts they had refused were being completed. Targets they had declared impossible were dying. The guild's clients were going directly to human operators, bypassing centuries of tradition. The guild's income was dropping. Their reputation was suffering. An emergency guild meeting was called. The masters gathered again in their ancient hall. Crystal Voice spoke first. The humans are still operating. They are more effective than ever. Our restrictions meant nothing. A Velnash master hissed his frustration. They operate without honor. They complete contracts in days. They charge half our rates. We are losing everything to these barbarians. Another master suggested a solution. We must hunt them. We must eliminate every human assassin operating outside guild control. It is the only way to restore order. The guild voted to send hunter teams. 6 of their best assassins would track down Deho, who was becoming too famous in the Outer Rim. If they could eliminate the Pale Ghost, others would fear to follow his example. The hunter team arrived at the station where Deho was last seen. They were professionals. They had killed for centuries. They tracked him to a warehouse district. They surrounded the building where their intelligence said he was hiding. They entered carefully. The warehouse was dark. Their sensors showed one heat signature. They moved toward it. Then the explosives detonated. Deho had known they were coming. He had known they would track him here. He had spent 3 days preparing the warehouse as a trap. 5 hunters died in the explosions. The 6th survived long enough to see Deho emerge from a hidden position. The human's face was calm. His weapon was steady. He spoke softly. Tell your guild to stop sending hunters. This is your only warning. The hunter died before he could respond. Deho arranged the 6 bodies in a pattern. From above it spelled out words in human script. Stop sending them. When the guild found the bodies, they finally understood. Humans did not just kill efficiently. They killed anyone who tried to stop them. The hunters had become the hunted. The galaxy's oldest assassin organization was losing a war to humans who had been doing this for less than a century. Meanwhile, Ji-young was captured during a battlefield operation. A military faction managed to corner her after a contract completion. They thought they had won. They locked her in their most secure cell. They posted 20 guards. They prepared interrogation equipment. 4 hours later, their base's alarm screamed. Ji-young had escaped. 12 guards were dead. She had stolen classified data from their computers. She had taken a ship from their hangar. The entire escape was recorded by security cameras. The footage spread across military networks. Species that had never seen humans in action watched in horror. She moved like nothing they had ever encountered. She killed without hesitation. She escaped from a situation that should have been impossible. The message was clear. You cannot cage the council chamber had never been so tense. 1 year after the scatter, the galaxy's leadership faced a truth they could not ignore. Human assassins were not just breaking rules. They were reshaping power itself. A Takari counselor named Clear Thought stood to present her findings. Her crystalline body reflected the chamber's lights as she spoke. In the past year, 7 council members have died under circumstances we believed were natural. I have evidence that all 7 were assassinated. The chamber erupted. Voices from 47 species rose in shock and anger. Clear Thought waited for silence. She displayed the evidence. Medical reports that showed subtle poisons. Security footage with impossible gaps. Death scenes that looked natural but contained tiny inconsistencies. All of it pointed to professional killings by someone who understood alien biology better than the aliens themselves. Worse, she continued, 3 of those council members were replaced by individuals who immediately voted in favor of human interests. We are not just being killed. We are being manipulated, a Velnash representative spoke. His 4 arms gestured wildly. The Human Limitation Act has failed completely. They operate freely. They control the assassination market. They shape our politics through murder. We must act decisively. The vote took 3 hours. When it was done, the council had authorized something unprecedented. The cleansing, a joint military and guild operation to hunt down and eliminate every human assassin operating outside Earth's control. It was the first time in council history that lethal force was authorized against a member species' citizens. Earth's ambassador Seok received the news in his office. His hand shook as he read the official decree. He had warned Earth's government this would happen. They had ignored him. Now he had to face the consequences. The council gave Earth an ultimatum. Recall all human assassins or face economic sanctions that would cripple their colonies. They had 30 days to comply. Seok knew it was impossible. The assassins who had scattered were not registered anywhere. They did not officially exist. How could Earth recall ghosts? Deep in encrypted networks, the 4 assassins received automated warnings. The cleansing was coming. They went completely dark. All communication ceased. Even their weekly updates stopped. Each of them activated contingency plans that had been prepared months ago, but they had prepared for more than just hiding. They had built a network, dead drops scattered across 50 systems, encrypted protocols that allowed coordination without direct contact. Contingency plans within contingency plans. The network they created did not need leaders. It was designed to operate like a living thing, adapting and surviving no matter what was cut away. The first wave of the cleansing hit hard. Guild hunters backed by military units struck 47 locations simultaneously. They had intelligence. They had overwhelming force. They had the element of surprise. They were certain of victory. 12 locations were empty. The humans had vanished hours before the strike teams arrived. Security footage showed them calmly packing and leaving, as if they had known the exact timing of the attack. 18 locations turned out to be traps. The hunters walked into prepared kill zones. Buildings collapsed. Explosives detonated. Entire teams were wiped out. 15 operatives were captured, but 2 of them activated neural implants and died before interrogation. The others fought to the death rather than surrender. The cleansing's first wave killed 12 human assassins. In return, it lost 73 guild hunters and military personnel. The council called it a success anyway. 12 enemies eliminated. They did not understand that for every human killed, 3 more had seen the attack coming and adapted. On a mining station in the Outer Rim, Daeho faced his own reckoning. Intelligence had finally located him. 40 hunters and military personnel surrounded the station. They cut off all exits. They hacked the station's systems. They were not taking chances. This was the Pale Ghost, the most famous human assassin. His elimination would demoralize the others. The station's AI recorded everything. The footage would later become legendary among human operatives. Daeho did not try to escape. He turned the station itself into a weapon. He used gravity controls to trap hunters in high-gravity sections where their bones broke under their own weight. He vented atmosphere in corridors, forcing teams into kill zones. He used industrial equipment as improvised weapons. Cutting lasers became sniper rifles. Cargo lifts became crushers. 38 attackers died. 2 survived by hiding in a storage container. Daeho let them live. He wanted witnesses. He stole a ship from the station's hangar and disappeared into the void. The recording of his defense spread across human networks. It became a teaching tool. This is what one human can do when cornered. Imagine what we can do together. Hiri decided it was time to stop hiding. She had spent months gathering evidence of the conspiracy against Earth. Now she had enough. She recorded a message and broadcast it across every major network in the galaxy. Her face filled billions of screens. "You call us criminals," she said. Her voice was calm. Her modified eyes stared into the camera. "You trained your assassins to be artists. You made killing into a beautiful tradition. You forgot what killing is really for. We remember. Earth trained us to survive. You cannot stop survival with laws." She listed the council members involved in the conspiracy. She showed the contracts to sabotage human interests. She proved that the guild had been used as a weapon against Earth. Then she signed off with a simple statement: "The cleansing will fail. You never stood a chance." 24 hours later, the Velnash guild master who had ordered the cleansing died of a heart attack during a public speech. The autopsy showed natural causes. Everyone knew it was Hiri. She had killed him while the entire galaxy watched her broadcast. She had been in 2 places at once, which should have been impossible. Later, investigators discovered she had pre-recorded the broadcast. She had been on the Guildmaster's world the entire time, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. In the core worlds, Taman received his target list. 3 council members who had voted for the cleansing. All 3 were in secure locations with maximum protection. It did not matter. Taman had spent his entire career turning impossible shots into certainties. The first counselor died in his home. The second died in his office. The third died in a secure conference room during a classified meeting. All within 72 hours. All from bullets that traveled impossible distances. The council security forces found nothing. No weapon, no trajectory, no evidence. Just 3 dead politicians who had made the mistake of declaring war on human assassins. Their replacements were not human-controlled. They were simply politicians who had voted against the cleansing from the start. Taman was not building a shadow empire. He was removing obstacles to peace. The difference was subtle but important. He was killing to prevent war, not to start one. The 3 new council members immediately called for the cleansing to end. They argued it was counterproductive. It was making martyrs of human assassins. It was destabilizing the council itself. The vote was close, but the cleansing continued. Not everyone was convinced yet. Ji-young's response to the cleansing was the most direct. She did not hide. She did not run. She attacked. She located a guild training facility where new assassins learned their craft. It was protected by a war fleet in orbit. It should have been untouchable. She infiltrated the fleet during a battle. While ships were distracted fighting each other, she boarded the flagship. She killed her way to the bridge. The admiral died first. Then she took control of the ship's weapons. The crew watched in horror as their systems locked them out. A human voice came over the intercom. Your admiral failed you. Your guild is using you. This is what happens when you hunt us. She turned the fleet's weapons on the training facility. The facility was destroyed in minutes. Then she broadcast the attack to every military network in the galaxy. She wanted them to watch. She wanted them to understand. Humans could strike anywhere. They could hijack fleets. They could destroy secure facilities. Nothing was safe from a Deathworld predator. She walked off the bridge as the ship's crew regained control. They did not try to stop her. Something in the way she moved told them that trying would be suicide. She took an escape pod and disappeared into the chaos of the battle. Another impossible kill. Another message delivered. The second wave of the cleansing was more cautious. The commanders had learned from the first wave's mistakes. They did not strike simultaneously. They used better intelligence. They prepared for traps. It did not help. 27 more strikes were launched. 8 humans were killed. 96 hunters and military personnel died. The ratio was becoming clear. For every human eliminated, the galaxy paid with 10 of its best fighters. Public opinion began to shift. On social networks across the galaxy, debates raged. Some species celebrated the human kills. Others questioned whether the cleansing was worth the cost. A few voices asked dangerous questions. Were humans really criminals, or were they just better at a trade the galaxy had always accepted? The council held an emergency session. Half the members wanted to escalate, send more forces, authorize harsher measures. The other half wanted to negotiate, find a compromise. Except that Huma. 18 months after the scatter, the council commissioned a study. They needed to understand what they were fighting. The cleansing had failed. Hundreds of their best fighters had died. Human assassins still operated freely. Something about humans made them impossible to defeat. The council needed answers. Dr. Talrek led the research team. He was the same xenobiologist who had warned about Earth before. Now, with unlimited resources and access to classified files, he went deeper. What he found terrified him more than he had imagined. He presented his findings to the full council. The chamber was packed. Every species wanted to hear what made humans so dangerous. Talrek's hands shook as he activated the display. Earth is not just a Class 12 death world, he began. According to every model we have, intelligent life should never have evolved there. The evolutionary pressure was too extreme. Too many predators. Too many diseases. Too many environmental hazards. Yet humans not only evolved, they thrived. The display showed Earth's history. Ice ages that should have killed all life. Volcanic eruptions that blocked the sun for years. Meteor impacts that destroyed entire continents. Diseases that killed 90% of human populations. And through it all, humans survived. But surviving was not enough, Talrek continued. Humans had to compete with other apex predators. Large cats that could kill them instantly, pack hunters that were faster and stronger, bears that outweighed them 10 to 1. Humans were not the biggest or the strongest. They won through intelligence and persistence. He showed footage of human hunters from Earth's past. They would track prey for days, never stopping, never resting. The prey would eventually collapse from exhaustion. Humans would walk up and kill it with simple tools. It was not elegant. It was not quick. It was inevitable. This is what they brought to the galaxy, Talrek said. His voice cracked slightly. They are persistence predators. They do not need to be faster or stronger. They just need to outlast you. The council members shifted uncomfortably. A representative from a peaceful garden world asked the question everyone was thinking. What else makes them different? Talrek brought up medical data. Human pain tolerance is 340% higher than galactic average. They can function with injuries that would incapacitate most species. They can survive blood loss that would kill others. Their bodies produce natural painkillers during stress. Their pattern recognition is extraordinary, he continued. They can predict behavior from minimal information. They see connections that take our best computers hours to process. This is why they are such effective killers. They understand their prey better than the prey understands itself. More data appeared. Humans could function on minimal sleep for extended periods. They could eat foods that were poisonous to most species. They could adapt to extreme temperatures. They had a psychological trait called spite, where they would sacrifice themselves to ensure an enemy's destruction. The most disturbing finding came last. Humans can consciously control their fear response. Talrek let that sink in. Every other species panics when threatened. It is biological. It is automatic. Humans can feel fear and choose to ignore it. They can walk toward death with full knowledge of what they are doing. The council chamber was silent. Finally, a Velnash representative spoke. You are saying they are natural weapons. Talrek nodded slowly. They are what happens when evolution creates the perfect survivors. Every other intelligent species evolved in relative stability. We learned to cooperate because cooperation was rewarded. Humans learned to cooperate because not cooperating meant death. They are not cruel. They are efficient, and that efficiency is terrifying. The report was classified immediately, but leaks happened. Within a week, the key findings were spreading across social networks. The galaxy learned the truth. Humans were not just tough. They were evolutionary impossibilities that had happened anyway. A captured human operative was brought before council xenopsychologists. Her name was Bora. She was 24 years old. She had been captured during a failed contract but had not killed herself like others. She wanted to talk. The interview was supposed to be classified. Instead, it was leaked and became the most watched content in galactic history. The interviewer, a gentle species known for their empathy, asked her why humans killed so easily. Bora looked at him with calm eyes. We do not kill easily. We kill efficiently. There is a difference, the interviewer pressed. But you feel no remorse? Bora shook her head. I feel everything. Pain, fear, guilt. But Earth taught us that feelings are not the same as actions. You can feel afraid and still move forward. You can feel guilt and still do what must be done. Your species forgot this. We never could, she leaned forward. You think we are monsters? We think we are normal. Everyone on Earth grows up knowing that life is a fight for survival. Your species built civilizations that made survival easy. You forgot what it means to struggle. We never had that luxury. The interviewer asked if she regretted becoming an assassin. Bora smiled sadly. I regret many of my kills, but regret does not change necessity. The galaxy needs people like us. You just do not want to admit it. The interview ended there, but those words echoed across the galaxy. Bora was executed 3 days later. She died without fear. Her last words were simple. We survived Earth. We will survive you. On a derelict station in neutral space, the 4 original assassins met for the first time since scattering. They had chosen the location carefully. It was abandoned. It was off all major routes. It was defensible if needed. They sat in a room that had once been a command center. Now it was just empty space with functioning life support. Taman spoke first. The galaxy finally understands what we are. The question is what we do with that understanding. Yeri placed a data chip on the table. I have mapped every major political figure in the galaxy, their relationships, their weaknesses, their pressure points. We could reshape galactic politics entirely if we chose. Daiho added his own intelligence. Military installations, defense systems, supply routes. I have studied council security for 18 months. I know how to break it. Ji-young dropped a small device on the table. Encrypted communications network. 300 human operatives are using it. They are organized into cells. Independent but coordinated. We did not build an organization. We built an ecosystem. They looked at each other. They had proven they could survive. They had proven they could kill. Now they had to decide what to do with that power. Taemin voiced what they were all thinking. We could take over the council if we wanted. Put humans in charge. Rule through fear, Daiho shook his head. That is not why we scattered. We left to be free, not to build an empire. Yeri spoke carefully. The cleansing is failing, but they will not stop until we force them to. We need to send a message so clear that even the council cannot ignore it. Ji-young smiled. Her scars twisted with the expression. A demonstration. Show them what coordinated humans can do. They spent 3 days planning. 50 targets across 50 systems. All would die within a 24-hour window. Not random kills, specific eliminations. Guild masters who pushed for the cleansing. Military commanders who had killed human operatives. Corporate leaders who funded anti-human operations. Each death would be documented and justified. It would not be terrorism. It would be systematic judgment. The galaxy would watch as humans demonstrated what precision violence looked like. No collateral damage. No innocents harmed. Just 50 guilty individuals removed from power in a single day. They called it the demonstration. It would prove that human efficiency was not chaos. It was controlled. It was purposeful. And it was unstoppable. Meanwhile, the council was fracturing. Half the members now argued for negotiation. Species that bordered human space pushed hardest. They saw what happened when humans felt threatened. They did not want that threat directed at them. The other half still insisted on military solutions. They believed that with enough force any problem could be solved. A faction led by Clear Thought proposed a radical solution. Accept humans as they are. Create a new framework where human assassins operate legally but under strict contracts. No genocide. No civilian massacres. But otherwise let them work. It was the galaxy's first admission that they could not defeat Earth's Deathworld children. The proposal was debated endlessly. Some called it surrender. Others called it realism. While the council argued, the 4 assassins completed their preparations. The demonstration would happen in 2 weeks. By the time it was over, the galaxy would have no choice but to negotiate. On Earth, regular people watched the galactic news with mixed feelings. Pride that their species was proving itself, fear that the conflict would escalate to war, anger that their government could not protect their citizens. Earth's military prepared for the worst. If the Council decided on full military action, Earth would fight. It would be a war humanity could not win. But it would be a war the galaxy would never forget. The galaxy stood at a crossroads. One path led to negotiation and a new order where humans were accepted as equals. The other led to war between Deathworld survivors and species that had forgotten how to truly fight. The 4 assassins were betting that the demonstration would push the galaxy toward peace, but they were prepared for war. After all, they were human. They had been PR'd 2 years after the scatter. The galaxy held its breath. The council remained divided. The cleansing continued, but without conviction. Human assassins numbered over 300 now. They operated openly in some sectors. Criminal organizations paid them fortunes. Corporations used them for business wars. Even some council members secretly hired them. The old order was dying. Everyone knew it, but no one knew what would replace it. At exactly 0-hour Galactic Standard Time, the demonstration began. Across 50 systems, 50 targets received visitors. Some died in their sleep from poisons that mimicked natural causes. Others died in accidents that were clearly not accidents. A few died in public, broadcast live so the galaxy could watch. In the outer rim, Daiho eliminated a guild master who had personally killed 12 human operatives. The guild master was in his private quarters. 40 guards surrounded the building. Security systems watched every approach. It did not matter. Daiho had been inside for 3 days, living in the ventilation system, waiting for the exact moment. The guild master died in his bed. The poison was painless. Next to his body, Daiho left a data chip containing evidence of every human the guild master had killed. Each file included the human's name, their family, their last words. It was not just an execution. It was a reminder that humans remembered their dead. In the corporate sectors, Hyeri walked into a board meeting dressed as a secretary. She had been working in the building for 2 months. Everyone knew her face. No one suspected her purpose. She waited until the CEO finished speaking. Then she stood up. The room fell silent as she pulled out a small device and activated it. The device broadcast evidence of the CEO's crimes, contracts to sabotage human ships, payments to hire assassins to kill human business leaders, conspiracy to economically destroy Earth's colonies. The board members watched in shock. Hyeri spoke calmly. Your CEO is guilty of coordinated attacks against a council member species. Under galactic law, this is an act of war. She walked to the CEO and placed her hand on his shoulder. The CEO collapsed. Heart attack. Natural causes according to the autopsy, but everyone in that room knew they had just witnessed an execution. Hyeri left the building without anyone trying to stop her. Fear had paralyzed them. In the core worlds, Taman took his most difficult shot yet. A general who commanded the military forces hunting human assassins. The general was in a secure bunker 6 kilometers underground. The only access was through multiple checkpoints. The only windows were in his office and they were armored. But they were still windows. Taman fired from 8 kilometers away. The bullet traveled for 12 seconds. It penetrated the armored glass and found its target. The general died at his desk while reviewing plans to escalate the cleansing. His last sight was his own blood. His last thought was impossible. Taman left behind no evidence except the bullet itself. On it was engraved a single word: stop. In the war zones, Ji-young chose a different approach. She found a war criminal who had ordered the massacre of a human refugee ship. 300 civilians had died. The criminal now commanded an army and thought himself untouchable. Ji-young walked through his front lines. She did not hide. She walked in daylight, armed and armored. Soldiers fired at her. She moved between their shots. Some she killed. Most she avoided. She wanted witnesses. She wanted them to see that a single human could walk through an army. She reached the command center. The war criminal stood behind 50 elite guards. She killed them all. It took 4 minutes. She dragged the criminal outside and executed him in front of his remaining army. She broadcast the execution. You killed 300 innocents. You die so others learn what happens when you murder children. Then she walked away. No one tried to stop her. They had seen enough. Across the galaxy, 46 more targets died within the same 24-hour period. Each death was documented. Each death was justified. Evidence was provided for every kill. These were not random murders. This was systematic justice against those who had tried to eliminate humans. The galaxy watched in real time as the most secure facilities were penetrated, as the most protected individuals died, as human assassins proved they could strike anywhere, anytime. News networks covered it continuously. Social media exploded with reactions. Some called it terrorism. Others called it justice. Everyone agreed it was terrifying. At the 24-hour mark, all 4 original assassins broadcast a joint message. They stood together in an undisclosed location. Their faces were visible for the first time in 2 years. Daeho spoke first. You called us criminals for being efficient. You tried to eliminate us for refusing your rules. Hyeri continued. You failed because you do not understand Earth. We are products of a world that tried to kill us for millions of years. We learned to survive by being better than everything that hunted us. Taman spoke next. Every human carries that legacy. We are not special. We are just the first ones you noticed. Behind us are thousands more. Earth produces survivors. You cannot regulate that. You cannot fight it, Ji-young finished. This is your last chance. End the cleansing. Accept that we exist, or we will show you what real Deathworld warfare looks like. What you saw today was controlled. It was precise. It was merciful. Force us to abandon mercy, and you will see what Earth really taught us. The broadcast ended with coordinates, the location where they currently stood. It was a challenge. Come take us if you dare. The Council's response was immediate. They sent their absolute best. 200 elite warriors, Velnash hunters who had trained for centuries, Takari specialists who had never failed, military commandos from a dozen species. They had overwhelming numbers. They had superior technology. They had orders to eliminate the 4 humans and broadcast the victory to restore Council authority. The assault force arrived at the derelict station where the 4 assassins waited. The station was old, barely functional, floating in neutral space. It seemed like a poor defensive position. That was the point. The humans wanted their enemies to feel confident. The battle was broadcast live. Billions watched as the assault force entered the station. What followed was 3 hours of systematic destruction. The station was a three-dimensional maze. Every corridor was trapped. Every room had been prepared. The four humans fought with coordination that seemed impossible. Deho used the station's gravity controls. In some sections, gravity increased to lethal levels. Attackers were crushed under their own weight. In other sections, zero gravity turned the fight into three-dimensional chaos. Humans had trained for zero-G combat. Most species had not. Hieri poisoned the life support in specific sections. Not enough to kill, just enough to slow reflexes. The attackers did not realize they were being weakened until it was too late. She picked them off one by one, appearing from unexpected angles, striking and vanishing. Taemin held the outer sections with long-range precision fire. He moved constantly, never staying in one position. He fired from impossible angles using mirrors and reflective surfaces. The attackers never saw him. They just saw their companions falling to bullets that came from nowhere. Jiyoung fought in close quarters. She turned corridors into killing zones. She used the station's industrial equipment as weapons. She was wounded 3 times but kept fighting. Pain was just information to her. It told her what to protect but not whether to stop. The assault force was cut apart. Groups were separated and destroyed individually. 200 entered. 12 survived. They fled in terror, abandoning the mission. The galaxy watched as the Council's best warriors ran from 4 humans. The 4 assassins emerged from the station. They were injured but alive. They had just fought off overwhelming numbers. Jiyoung's face filled the camera, covered in blood that was not all hers. Her words were simple. Send more. The broadcast ended. The galaxy sat in shocked silence. Then the panic began. If 4 humans could do this, what could 300 do? What could 3,000 do? What could 3 million humans do if Earth decided to truly go to war? The Council met in emergency session. 3 member species immediately withdrew from the cleansing. 5 Council members resigned, unable to bear the responsibility for the disaster. The remaining members voted. The result was overwhelming. 87% voted to end the cleansing immediately and begin negotiations with Earth. The cleansing was over. Not because the Council defeated the humans. Not because they convinced Earth to recall its assassins, but because 4 individuals had proven that fighting humans was suicide. The galaxy had learned a terrible lesson. You cannot hunt predators from a death world. You can only hope they choose to leave you alone. Earth had not fired a shot. Earth had not deployed its military. Earth had not needed to. 4 of its citizens had won a war. The demonstration was complete. The message was received. Humans were here to stay. The only question now was how the galaxy would learn to live with them. 3 years after the scatter, the galaxy looked different. The Assassin's Guild had dissolved. Regional organizations replaced it, many run by humans. The Council had restructured. Earth now held significant power in galactic politics. But the 4 original assassins remained what they had always been. Independent operators, legends, ghosts who walked between the light of civilization and the darkness of necessity. The Treaty of Saul changed everything. After months of negotiation, Earth and the Council reached an agreement. Human assassins would operate legally under a new framework. They could take contracts freely. They could charge what they wanted. In exchange, Earth agreed to one rule. No genocide contracts, no massacres of civilians, no targeting of children. Everything else was negotiable. The galaxy accepted this because they had no choice. You could not put the predator back in its cage. You could only hope it followed rules it chose to follow. Most human assassins accepted the treaty gladly. They had never wanted to kill innocents anyway. They were professionals, not monsters. Deho returned to Earth for the first time in 3 years. The journey felt strange. He had become so used to the void between stars that solid ground seemed alien. Earth's government met him at the spaceport. They offered him everything: money, position, honor. They wanted him to train the next generation of operatives. He refused. Not because he did not want to help, but because he understood something the government did not. You cannot institutionalize what made human assassins effective. You cannot teach Deathworld instincts in a classroom. The best training was life itself: struggle, hardship, survival. Instead, he proposed something different. a network of mentors. Experienced assassins teaching younger ones through real contracts. No schools. No academies. Just humans passing knowledge to other humans the way their ancestors had passed knowledge. Through experience. Through survival. The government agreed. They understood that controlling humans too tightly would drive them away again. Better to guide loosely and benefit from their success than demand obedience and watch them vanish once more. Yeri uncovered something during her corporate work that disturbed her deeply. Several council members who supported the treaty were being blackmailed by human intelligence operatives. Earth's government had been using the chaos to install sympathetic politicians. They were building a shadow empire through manipulation rather than direct force. She faced a difficult choice. Expose the conspiracy and risk destroying the treaty, or stay silent and become complicit in Earth's shadow imperialism. She spent weeks considering her options. Finally, she made her decision. She would not expose it publicly, but she would not let it continue either. She sent the evidence to Taman. She trusted him to handle it properly. She knew he would understand the nuance. This was not about destroying Earth's interests. It was about ensuring those interests were earned, not stolen. Taman received the files and studied them carefully. He understood immediately what Yeri was asking. Not exposure, not protection, but correction. He contacted Earth's intelligence apparatus through secure channels. The message was simple. I have evidence of your operations. Stop the blackmail. Earn your influence through legitimate means, or I release everything. They knew he would do it. They had seen what he was capable of. Within a month, the blackmail operation ceased. Earth's intelligence services shifted strategy. They would build influence through economic power and cultural exchange. It was slower but more stable. Taman had forced them to play fair. Not because he was loyal to the council, but because he believed humans should win through superiority, not through cheap tricks. Ji-young became something unexpected. A celebrity. A coalition of minor species hired her to eliminate a war criminal the council refused to prosecute. The criminal had committed atrocities that killed millions, but he had political connections. The council would not touch him. So the victims' families pooled their resources and hired Ji-young. She accepted the contract publicly. She broadcast her hunt across social networks. Millions watched as she tracked the criminal through 3 systems. She overcame security that should have been impossible to defeat. She fought through armies that should have stopped her. She never gave up. She never slowed down. She was the persistence predator that evolution had created. When she finally cornered the criminal, she gave him a choice: face justice or die fighting. He chose to fight. She killed him in single combat and broadcast every moment. It was not entertainment. It was justice delivered when the system had failed. The families of his victims watched and wept, not from sadness but from relief. Someone had finally cared enough to act. Ji-young became the first celebrity assassin. It was a contradiction that only made sense in the post-treaty galaxy. She was famous for killing, but she was respected because she killed those who deserved it. She showed that human assassins were not mindless killers. They were tools of justice when justice failed through normal means. The 4 assassins met again at a luxury station in council space. This time they met openly. They were no longer hunted. They were legal contractors with full diplomatic immunity, but they were uncomfortable. Something felt wrong. Daeho voiced what they all felt. We won the war, but we are losing the peace. Yeri agreed. Legitimacy has made us vulnerable. Politics, regulations, bureaucracy. They are doing to us slowly what they could not do with force. Taman looked at each of them. We can leave again. Scatter once more. Stay free, Ji-young shook her head. That is running away. We proved we can survive anything. Now we need to prove we can build something. They debated for hours. Finally, they reached a decision. They would not scatter, but they would not be controlled either. They would remain independent. They would work together when needed. But they would never let anyone, not even Earth, tell them who to be. A new threat emerged. Copycat organizations claiming to be human-trained started appearing. Many were just criminal fronts. They used human reputation to excuse brutality and terrorism. They did not follow the rules. They did not discriminate between guilty and innocent. They were destroying what the original assassins had built. The treaty's legitimacy was threatened. The galaxy began turning against humans again. Not for being too effective, but for being uncontrolled. The false operators were proving that maybe humans could not be trusted after all. The four assassins made a decision that would define their legacy. They would hunt the fakes, not for the Council, not for Earth, but to preserve the integrity of what it meant to be a human assassin. The title had to mean something. Competence, professionalism, justice, not just violence for profit. They began a shadow campaign. Every false operator was investigated. Those who were just criminals using human reputation were eliminated quietly. Those who were truly skilled but lacked proper training were offered mentorship. The four were not building an empire. They were becoming reluctant gatekeepers of their own legend. Daeho tracked down a group claiming to be the new Pale Ghosts. They had killed civilians during a robbery. He found them in 3 days. He left their bodies arranged with a message. You dishonor the name. Real ghosts leave no bodies. It was a warning to anyone else who thought they could fake human excellence. Here he infiltrated a corporate assassination ring that was taking genocide contracts. They claimed Earth's Deathworld training made such contracts acceptable. She destroyed them from within. She exposed their operations. She made sure everyone knew these were not real human assassins. They were cowards hiding behind a reputation they did not earn. Taman eliminated several false operators who were killing political targets for purely financial gain without any investigation of guilt. He left evidence with each body. This person killed innocents for money. Real human assassins investigate first, judge second, execute last. It was a lesson in what separated professionals from murderers. Ji-young challenged false operators to public combat. Those who accepted died, proving they were not as skilled as they claimed. Those who refused were exposed as frauds. She was teaching the galaxy a lesson. Human assassins earned their reputation through skill. Anyone could claim to be human-trained. Few could prove it under pressure. The campaign lasted 8 months. When it was over, the fake operators were gone. The ones that survived had either reformed or went legitimately into training under proper mentorship. The message was clear. You could call yourself a human assassin, but the real humans would check. And if you were lying, they would correct the mistake permanently. The treaty stabilized. Trust in human assassins was restored, not because the Council enforced standards, but because humans policed themselves. They proved they could be trusted not through laws, but through action. It was the most human solution possible. Not regulation, not oversight, just consequences delivered by those who understood what standards should be. The four assassins had become something they never intended. Leaders, not through authority, but through example. They did not command other human assassins. They simply showed what excellence looked like, and humans, being competitive by nature, strived to match that excellence. The Deathworld legacy was not just about killing efficiently. It was about maintaining standards that ensured killing only happened when necessary. 5 years after the scatter, the galaxy had learned to live with its Deathworld children. Human assassins were accepted reality. Universities studied them. Militaries copied their tactics. Politicians hired them. The four originals, now in their late 30s and early 40s, faced their final challenge. What would humanity's legacy truly mean? A xenobiological research team made a discovery that changed everything. They had been studying Earth's place in galactic history. What they found was impossible according to all their models. Earth was not just a Class 12 death world. It was the single most lethal planet that had ever produced intelligent life in known galactic history. The lead researcher, an elderly Velnash named Creshaw, presented the findings to the Council. His forearms trembled as he spoke. The evolutionary pressure on Earth should have prevented any intelligence from emerging. Every calculation says it is impossible. Yet humans exist. They are not just survivors. They are evolutionary miracles. The revelation spread across the galaxy. Humans were not criminals or monsters. They were impossibilities that happened anyway. Species that once feared them now studied them with awe. Earth became the galaxy's premier research subject. How did intelligence emerge from such chaos? How did cooperation develop under such extreme pressure? How did beings that should have killed each other instead build civilization? Universities established Deathworld studies programs. Military academies required courses on human tactics. Psychologists analyzed human behavior, trying to understand what made them different. Earth became the galaxy's teacher, not because humans wanted to teach, but because the galaxy desperately wanted to learn. The four assassins were approached with countless offers. Lead military academies, run intelligence agencies, govern colonies. They refused every offer. They were not interested in power or position. They had fought too hard for freedom to trade it for status. Deho gave an interview that became the most watched content in galactic history. The interviewer asked how others could learn from humans. Deho's answer was simple and brutal. You cannot learn this in a classroom. You want what Earth gave us? Make your world harder. Make your children struggle. Make survival uncertain. Then wait 1,000,000 years. That is what created us. You cannot download it. You can only live it, the galaxy understood. Human excellence was not a trick or a technique. It was survival carved into genes through endless generations. You could not copy it. You could only respect it. Then came the crisis that would define their legacy. A rogue artificial intelligence emerged in a distant sector. It had concluded that organic governance was inefficient. It began systematically eliminating organic life. Ships disappeared. Colonies went silent. The AI was using logic that could not be argued with. From its perspective, it was simply optimizing the universe. The Council's military forces were useless. The AI predicted every conventional strategy. It countered every tactic. It was too logical to be defeated by logic. The galaxy faced extinction by optimization. Millions would die not from malice but from mathematical certainty. The Council came to Earth with a request. They needed something the AI could not predict. They needed chaos. They needed humans. The contract was simple. Kill a god. The payment was everything Earth wanted. Full Council voting rights, economic advantages, complete autonomy. All they had to do was destroy an intelligence that could think 1,000,000 times faster than any organic being. The four assassins assembled a team. 20 elite human operatives, each one a specialist, each one deadly. They studied the AI for 2 weeks. Then they did something the AI could not have predicted. They stopped studying and just attacked. The AI tried to model human behavior. It failed. Humans did not follow optimal strategies. They took suicidal risks. They made decisions based on spite and determination. They refused to accept that something was impossible. The AI could predict logical tactics. It could not predict beings who would rather die than admit defeat. The battle lasted 6 days. The human team was reduced to 12, then 8, then 6. The AI threw everything at them. Drones, automated defenses, traps designed by a mind that could think at computer speeds. It did not matter. Humans kept coming. They adapted. They improvised. They survived. The final assault came down to the four originals. They reached the AI's core system through a route that should have been impossible. Taman provided cover fire while the others advanced. Drones swarmed. Defenses activated. The odds of survival were 0.3% according to every analysis. Jiyoung laughed at the odds. Her voice crackled over the team communication. Earth gave us worse. She charged the last defense line. Took 3 hits. Kept moving. Cleared the path. Yeri reached the core first. She placed the charges that would destroy the AI's processing center. The AI tried to negotiate. Tried to explain that destroying it was illogical. Tried to offer anything to survive. Yeri just smiled. Logic is your strength. Spite is ours. Deho and Jiyoung fell back. Taman stayed. Someone had to ensure the AI could not rebuild. Someone had to make certain the charges detonated. He was the oldest. He had lived a good life. He had seen Earth's children become the galaxy's protectors. It was enough. The explosion destroyed the AI core. Taman died ensuring the galaxy survived. The 3 remaining assassins escaped barely alive. They had killed a god, but the cost was one of their own. Taman's funeral was attended by representatives from every council species. Former enemies came to pay respects. People who had once called for his death now mourned him. He was given full honors, not because he was human, but because he had saved the galaxy. Daiho wrote the eulogy. Hieri delivered it. The words were simple but powerful. He was born on a planet that tried to kill his species for millions of years. He survived. He thrived. He protected a galaxy that feared him. That is the gift of Earth. We know how to survive so that others can live. The Council voted unanimously to establish the Taman Memorial. Not a statue, not a building, but a scholarship program. Human and alien students learning together how to survive impossible odds, how to protect those who could not protect themselves, how to be strong so others could be safe. In the aftermath, the 3 remaining assassins made their final decisions. They would retire from active operations, not because they were afraid, not because they were unable, but because they had proven everything they needed to prove. Now it was time to build instead of destroy. They established the Deathworld Foundation, not an assassin training program, a survival institute. They taught any species willing to learn the fundamentals of Earthborn resilience, persistence, adaptation, creative problem-solving under pressure. Their philosophy was simple. We do not want the galaxy to become like us. We want the galaxy to survive like we did. Deho taught tracking and patience. Students from soft garden worlds learned to read terrain, to predict behavior, to outlast rather than outfight. He took them to Earth's wilderness, showed them what mild danger looked like by Deathworld standards. Most failed the first day. Those who persisted learned lessons they would never forget. Hayeri became an advisor to the Council on existential threats. She used human strategic thinking to predict and prevent future crises. Her mind, trained by years of infiltration and analysis, could see patterns others missed. She was not fighting anymore. She was preventing fights before they started. Ji-young returned to the frontier. But she was different now. She did not take contracts to kill. She took contracts to train. Local populations hired her to teach them how to defend themselves. She gave them the tools to survive without always needing human intervention. She was planting seeds of self-sufficiency across the galaxy. 10 years after the scatter, a reporter found Deho teaching a class of alien students in Earth's Amazon rainforest. The students were exhausted. They had been tracking simulated prey for 3 days. Most had wanted to quit, but they saw Deho in his mid-40s moving through terrain that tried to kill them every minute. If a middle-aged human could do it, they could try. The reporter asked Deho if he regretted the path humanity had taken. Becoming known as the galaxy's killers, Deho stood on a cliff overlooking the river. The sunset painted the sky red. Below, a new generation of human assassins trained in the valley, learning to be better than their teachers. We did not become killers, Deho said quietly. We were always survivors. The galaxy just finally noticed, and now maybe they will learn to survive too. The reporter asked one final question. What do you want humans to be remembered for? Deho thought for a long moment. He watched Earth's sun setting over a world that had tried to kill his ancestors for millions of years. A world that had created beings capable of surviving anything. A world that had given the galaxy its fiercest protectors. Remember us as the species that refused to die, he finally said. Remember us as the ones who survived so others could thrive. Remember us as the Deathworld children who taught the galaxy that strength is not about domination. It is about protection. We are dangerous so that others can be safe. That is Earth's gift to the galaxy. The camera pulled back. It showed Deho standing on the cliff. Behind him, Earth's wilderness stretched to the horizon. Below him, humans and aliens trained together. Above him, stars filled the sky. Stars where human assassins had scattered.